What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I am here for my preview video for the Miami Dolphins versus New England Patriots at Hard Rock Stadium. It is the Dolphins' final home game of the season, with the last two going on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders, obviously next week, which is actually a Saturday game. There's a doubleheader, so Saturday game for us, and then to wrap up against Buffalo on the road in Buffalo. And so, look, I've been saying for a while now that the Dolphins, particularly in the second half of the season, the key for them is going to be staying healthy. Unfortunately, they have had a bunch of injuries accumulate. We'll get to the injury report in a minute, but they have had a bunch of injuries start to accumulate, which has equalized as far as, caught them up to the rest of the league, because most teams obviously have been hit by pretty severely by injuries and COVID. The Dolphins overall still are one of the least affected teams, or the lesser affected teams, that has been changing in recent weeks, and they do have several players, significant players on the injury report. But the team that they're about to play this week is the New England Patriots, who obviously is a completely different team. Tom Brady left in the offseason. Their defense is almost entirely new because they had several guys opt out of the season because of COVID. A couple guys left in free agency. They also had a few coaches leave in the offseason. So the team and the organization is drastically different. They're also obviously having their fair share of struggles this season as well. And they also do have a ton of guys on the injury report. They've had their fair share of injuries throughout the season, and I've also had their fair share of COVID issues, right? So, look, this is a game that I expect the Dolphins to win. They should win. But, again, the injuries are going to play I hopefully not, but I believe that they will probably play a pretty significant role, in how this game plays out and what the result is. If they didn't have so many dudes on the injury report, and, particularly this last game, or really the past couple games, so a couple weeks ago, it was a pretty firm expectation that the Dolphins win against the Patriots. But, as things play out, we are getting more injuries. I think ultimately those are going to play enough of a role that it ends up being a relatively low-scoring game and probably pretty close. I'm going to say maybe a 21 to, 15, 21 to 18 kind of game. 21-15, let's say 21-15. Somehow they get to 15 points. Maybe it's all field goals, whatever. But there is some sort of, there is some probability that the Patriots do end up winning this game. Cam Newton's been very up and down. Obviously, he had a bout with COVID and had to go on the COVID list. And again, they're you could, by their record, they're middle of the pack, but they are definitely struggling with all the changes that have happened and the injuries and so on and so forth. So, really, there's not much to say about it, honestly, about this matchup. They should win this game, but there is some chance that they end up losing it. That obviously would be terrible. The Bills did just clinch the division, so there's no longer any possibility that the Dolphins win the division, because the Bills just won today, which brings their record to 11-3. Even if the Dolphins were to win their last three games, which, frankly, if I'm keeping it real, I don't really see happening. But even if they were to do that, it would be impossible for them to win the division, because the Bills already won earlier in the season. They have the head-to-head, and they also have a far better divisional and conference record. So they would have all the tiebreakers. I'm pretty sure the Dolphins wouldn't hold any. And so they absolutely 100% have the division. There is no more opportunity for the Dolphins to take it. They do obviously still have an opportunity to make it in the playoffs, but there is a very, very, very small margin of error. They could probably lose, I don't know. I mean, honestly, at this point, with as tight as it is for, you know, the playoff race and the wild card, even losing one game might be enough to push them out, right? Because even if they lose, so, you know, they're 8-5 right now, and if they were to win 2 out of the 3 next games, that would put them to 10-6 on the season, which is a good record, right? It's obviously a winning record, double-digit wins. It's twice as many wins as the Dolphins got last year. You know, but it still, unfortunately, could end up being enough to keep them out, especially with, you know, potential tiebreakers and so on and so forth. So, you know, there's a very small margin for error, but obviously with every game that they lose, it gets smaller and smaller. So ideally, the Dolphins would want to win the next 3 games. This one against the Patriots is an expected one, although there is some possibility they could lose it. Mostly because I do feel that it's probably going to be a low-scoring and close game. I think that the offenses are going to have a hard time. I think the offenses on both teams are going to struggle, and it'll be a defensive-heavy game. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. That's how I see it. But this is a winnable game for them. I am expecting them to win, predicting them to win, and so this would make the Dolphins' record 9-5. Now, as of right now, I am still predicting a loss against the Raiders, partly because it's a road game, partly because the Dolphins are incurring a ton of injuries the past few weeks, and, you know, hopefully they stay healthy in this game, but you know, it's another game, and it's a rough sport, so, you know, more guys could get injured. And frankly, I think the Raiders are the better team. However, just like, you know, there is some chance that the Patriots could win this game tomorrow, there's definitely a chance that we could win the game against the Raiders, especially considering the fact that, you know, they just lost their starting quarterback. Now, there are people that will be like, well, you know, Marcus Mariota came in and he had a really good performance, and actually, we probably don't want Mariota, and we actually want Derek Carr to be in there. But if I'm keeping it real, I'm actually all right with Mariota in there because, look, man, he lost his job for a reason, and he's the backup for a reason here against the in Las Vegas, right, with the Raiders. And yeah, he had a good performance, but that's one game that, you know, it's one game, right? He hasn't played in games since then, or since for quite some time, since he lost his starting job to Ryan Tannehill last year, right? So, you know, so probably in over a year at this point. So he could have come in and you know, had a really good performance, but he is also, in his career overall, pretty up and down, does tend to throw some interceptions, and that's part of why he lost his job to Ryan Tannehill. And we do have a secondary that still, for now anyway, is relatively healthy, and Xavier Howard in particular is a ball hawk and a fucking G, right? Like, that dude's a boss, and so, you know, there's a high probability that he could fucking, you know, come down with his 10th one. I'm not I was never really super high on Marcus Mariota to begin with. As you guys know, I'm not really a fan of taking quarterbacks in the first round at all. So that adds to it from my perspective. But really, to be honest, I'm not overly concerned about Marcus Mariota. And if I'm keeping it real, I actually personally would rather have Mariota in the game over Carr. Now, it's close, but I would prefer to have Mariota in the game just slightly more than Derek Carr. Anyway, so, you know, that's a winnable game. Obviously, there is a decent chance we could win that game. I still think it's ultimately going to be a loss. But, you know, if we win the next 2, that gets us to 10. As of right now, I am still on the, you know, 9-7 train. I think that the Dolphins will win against the Patriots. And look, when it comes to the Bills, I mean, that's also a road game in the, you know, middle of December, at the end of the year, etc., etc. I mean, they've already won their division. They've already won the division, and they have a playoff spot. So that's, you know, it is what it is. And I'm not sure. I mean, I think they still technically are in the race for the number 1 seed. I'm not sure if that's really going to be relevant in the final game, but there is a possibility. I mean, the Chiefs are what, 12-1, if I'm not mistaken, and the Bills are what, 11-2, right? So they're like 1 game behind them. There's obviously 3 games left to be played. So there is still, we'll have to wait and see if that's relevant in the final game of the season. But the point is even if it's not and the Bills were to rest their starters, I'm still pretty sure that they're going to beat us. Having said that, obviously, if they do rest their starters, then that does increase the Dolphins' probability of being able to win that game. And thus, helping their chances to get to the playoffs. And there is a scenario in which the Dolphins could end up winning their last 3 games. So, if it to get to an 11-win season, because I expect them to beat the Patriots. There's a decent chance that they could beat the Raiders, and then, I don't think that there's any chance that they beat the Bills if the Bills are playing their starters. But if they play backups, then I'd say that there's a decent chance overall there, right? So there is some chance that the Dolphins get to 11 wins on the season. I think it's that would be 11-5. I think it's more probable that they end up 9-7, but there is also some chance that they end up 8-8 and lose their last 3 games. So obviously we're going to have to wait and see. Tomorrow I am expecting to do a live stream. I know I've, had, a few different reasons each of the past few weeks, but I haven't done a live stream the past few weeks. It started because I couldn't afford Sunday Ticket a few weeks ago, and then, fucking whatever. Anyway, and then I slept through the game like last week or whatever, so I'm having my struggles getting the live streams together, but I am expected to have one tomorrow, so join me for that. And I'm hopefully going to be able to have live streams for the remainder of the games this season. That is what I am definitely pushing for. It, obviously is going to be somewhat tentative because I just never know. My life is crazy and so on and so forth. But I am going to try really hard to have live streams for you guys, so make sure to check out my channel for that tomorrow. And then, obviously I will, no matter what, try to get my post-game analysis video for you as soon as possible, and try and, give you, a good, full, detailed picture. Last week, the preview or the post-game video for the Chiefs game was super simple. I could have gone more in depth and given you more, nuanced details of the play-by-play, the drive-by-drive, but I figured it was a pretty easy game to, analyze overall. It was definitely one of the Dolphins' better games, especially considering the level of opponent that they played, and despite the fact that the result ended up being what was expected, and that is obviously a loss. So, hopefully they can carry that into this game and get a W, and then hopefully they can carry that throughout the remainder of the season in the last few games, get some wins, and make it to the playoffs. But again, though, and just to keep it real, I know people are just going to look at this and be like, oh, you're just too negative. Whatever, dude. Honestly, I don't care. I'm just keeping it real. And look, I hope they make it to the playoffs. I hope that they do manage to win their next 3 games. I hope they manage to stay healthy. And I hope that they can win more than a game, or I hope that they can win a game in the playoffs. But if I'm keeping it real, all of those things are really tall orders. I don't think that they're going to be able to, stop losing guys in the last 3 games. It's football. It's a violent sport. And then you add in the extenuating circumstances that is this NFL season. And it makes that highly unlikely. I don't think that they're going to win their last 3 games. I think that that's a pretty, tough road to trek, and a high probability that they don't, but I hope they do. And finally, if they do make it into the playoffs, I don't think they're going to get past the first round. But again, I hope that they prove me wrong. We will obviously have to wait and see. All right, with that, I am going to break up out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.